Hi guys, welcome back to Toxic to Me. Aku Ivana, aku dokter.
Dan aku Christiana, aku psikolog klinis.
And today we have a very special guest joining us, Julian. Do you think you could introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Julian Beniardi, and I'm very excited for today's episode.
And what is today's episode?
Well, hari ini kita akan ngomongin the intersection of science and faith.
Fun?
Yay! Okay, jadi mungkin aku mau mulai dengan bertanya, do you guys know about the book The God Delusion?
Enlighten me.
No, I've heard of it, but gue belum baca.
Yeah, so I actually saw it in Kinokuniya a little bit ago, and essentially it's a book by Richard Dawkins in which he says that if one person imagines something, then it's called psychosis. Tapi if a group of people imagine the same thing, then it's called religion.
Whoa.
So
That's an interesting statement.
yeah, so it's basically him entirely discrediting the idea that science and religion can coexist.
Right.
Jadi mungkin hari ini kita ngajak Jules untuk jadi guest kita karena I think from knowing you outside of this podcast, you're very religious, tapi you operate in a secular world, right?
I try to be.
Yeah. So I think that you are also very fact-based and you really like objective evidence. So to a lot of people, maybe that could sound counterintuitive, as if kaya it sounds contradictory lah, to have faith in the
Yeah.
things you cannot see,
Mm-mm.
and also dependency or reliance on facts. So hari ini kita mau coba untuk memahami bagaimana these two things can overlap and these two things can intersect.
People who have faith belief systems, like some parts of their brain are more activated, and some other parts of their brain are less activated.
Right.
And I'm not sure how all of that plays in the grand scheme of the universe, but I'm sure that what I believe is that each individual is unique, and each individual has a plan, sort of purpose on their own, and whether or not this individual has a sort of conscience from God that they sort of inherited from either themselves, like their experiences, or from other people and parents, it's a very minuscule sort of chance for them to understand that there is a higher power. And there's not a lot of people that believe in God, and there's even less people that obey in God. And there's different rules when it comes to different religions, right? And some of those rules, scientifically, does make you more disciplined. It makes you less likely to mess up or try to do things that doesn't align with their goals and their futures. So in some ways that could actually strengthen, if I'm not mistaken, the prefrontal cortex
Right.
part of your brain,
Yeah, I
which
was
is
about to say.
responsible for planning, which is responsible for complex decision making. Correct me if I'm wrong, doctor. You see a lot of people that have religion and faith-based systems have a larger increase of gray matter in their prefrontal cortex. So that does say something about one specific part of the brain when you have a faith-based system to help you navigate through life.
Okay. And maybe to the people who are not very familiar lah dengan gray matter and what you're trying to say, how would you simplify it? What does it mean if you have more gray matter in your mind?
I would say, I think a lot of people struggle with a lot of big decisions in life when it comes to planning or just complex decision making, right? And when they have something, you could say in this instance, religion, help them plan that for them, saying that God's plan is bigger and is way more complicated than you yourself could understand, you leave that decision completely up to another force,
Yeah.
which makes you less likely to blame yourself when something bad happens from that decision you took. And you would try to make sense out of it with trying to convince yourself that it's part of a bigger plan.
Okay.
In that way, you would be more relieved when that plan falls through, because you could always convince yourself that there's a reason why it fell through.
Okay.
So everything happens for a reason.
I believe that everything happens for God's reasoning.
Maybe I should pray more, right? Maybe I'm like this karena I don't have enough faith gitu kan. And I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that mental illness per se is caused by lack of faith. Tapi I do believe that it doesn't hurt to pray more. It doesn't hurt to lean into religion. Kenapa? Whatever religion it is. It doesn't have to be Christianity or Islam. It just shows, a lot of research shows that religion is actually yang namanya a protective factor. So it's kind of like a lot of people with anxiety, a lot of people with OCD, a lot of people with depression either have an overinflated sense of responsibility, so they believe that they control outcomes lah. So they're very uncertainty avoidant kan. People with anxiety in some cases, right? Tapi when that blame atau that responsibility is diffused, or they believe that doesn't rest solely on their shoulders, it can actually be very helpful to them. In the same way that someone who's depressed is like, oh, my life has no purpose, to the idea of believing that even if you don't know what it is, you do have a purpose and things will unfold according to a higher power's plan is actually
Like I
proven to
mentioned.
be helpful. It's like what you
it
said.
is.
Tapi the term for it is called protective factor.
Good to know.
So, so I think that religion, a lot of people, studies show that religiosity actually can protect you from a lot of mental health issues, or can protect you from, like, the duration of it can be shorter and the severity of it can also be less severe when people are religious. Obviously, controversial findings, tapi kaya that's something that I found.
I guess my question for you, doctor, is that when you have patients, and I'm not sure if you've gotten as far as to look their brains up through an MRI, but do you see a difference in patients that have a religion-based system of like cognitive function versus someone who is atheist and does not believe in God?
Well, from my experience, we don't have enough budget and time to do. Is that mean? No, right? It's the truth.
Okay.
I don't. I think for research purposes, kalau dengan tujuan riset, yes, they do a lot of this, especially abroad. But in Indonesia, in like everyday practice, in everyday healthcare, we don't actively perform this because it doesn't change the pelayanan yang kita kasih pasien.
Right.
Kan kita harus melayani pasien tanpa melihat agama kan juga.
Right.
But I have read papers where I think you mentioned it. They found more gray matter in the brains of patients with faith-based systems as opposed to those who don't. And another interesting thing that I wanted to add was also, I think you mentioned it just now, that also small things aja kayak when you're a religious person, everyday things like praying or going to church, things like that, those are rituals, right?
Yeah.
Rituals are shown to reduce cortisol and increase predictability. And I think you mentioned it, anxious people with anxiety, who are uncertainty avoidant, that can seem calming, right? Small things like that. And also prayer, meditation, things like that, they activate parts of the prefrontal cortex that you mentioned before. So I would say that the effects of religion are very real.
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel it.
Pray every day.
But that's not to say berarti orang yang nggak beragama atau orang yang nggak terlalu percaya Tuhan, agnostik atau ateis apapun itu, that means that they're awful people and things like that. Because to each, balik lagi to each their own, right? Yeah.
Would you say if they had their own rituals, as compared as when you compare it to people that have faith-based systems, when it comes to like prayer, meditation, do you think when atheists or agnostics or people that don't necessarily believe in God, when they replace those rituals with something else, but it also comes down in cortisol, is it the same sort of effect?
Well,
One could debate. So
Could debate?
one could say that.
One could
but-
debate now?
Okay, I'll take yes. And will you take no?
I think I agree that it's yes. Karena maybe to add on to that, what does a ritual do? Kan? Kaya if you're going to church, if
Right.
you're going to the mosque, partially social support, kan?
Social support is a
So,
big one.
You don't look at the over, like the umbrella behavior, tapi you look at what is the function of the behavior. And what does the behavior entail? What are the elements that make it a protective factor, that make you calm down the cortisol? How? It's not the ritual itself.
Yeah.
It's the things involved in the ritual.
And I think that Okay, let's say if you were to replace those rituals or replace those habits with something else,
Right.
those other habits would be lacking one thing, and that would be spirituality,
Mm,
right?
okay.
Yeah. So spirituality can do a lot, by the way. It can help stabilize the autonomic nervous system as well. So
Wait, I'm confused. What is the difference, maybe, between spirituality and religiosity?
I think religiosity relies much on textual evidence, on actual, like tangible evidence,
Okay.
right? When you have it through Bibles, when you
Yeah.
have it through
Quran.
historical tellings, when you have it through like sacraments, or you have it through like relics, like old relics.
right.
I think spirituality takes that all out of the picture. Like, as to say, given this like sort of apocalyptic sort of scenario where all of the religious stuff were burned, not through intention, but through like just like this circumstance, this bad circumstance that all the religious stuff were burned, and you're left with spirituality. As in, some people are able to know things that they shouldn't with cognitive function. Like, as to say, there are some people having cases where they would know something about you as a person without prior knowledge. And that, I think, is also an interesting field of expertise where you have a lot of spirituality without the religion. That falls in the factor of like gypsies. I don't think you can call them that, but
But that was what they used to call them.
psychics. These people are generally not associated with one single religion, but they can tell you things that you would like to hear about yourself without religion as a protective factor.
Right.
Things about your future, things about your past. And that's very interesting, knowing that they don't have a single religion that they abide towards.
Yeah.
So I think the difference between religion and spirituality is that religion is based on what you know from other people, and spirituality is based on what you know from yourself. What you know is inside here, and maybe inside your soul and your spirit.
So would you say you're a religious person or a spiritual person?
I would argue that I am indeed both.
Why do you think you're both?
I think religion and spirituality is important because when we don't have religion to depend on, like I said, it could be through other people. It could be through, I wouldn't say doctrine is the right word. I would say it's teachings and just
Yeah.
knowledge and experience from other people. When you're missing all of that, if I was a blind, deaf, mute monk living in China, I'm giving you a circumstance, as in I wouldn't be able to understand or sort of fathom what religion is,
Right.
because I have no senses to understand what it is.
Right.
I still have spirituality because I am able to feel things that are sort of like beyond my understanding of touching things, of holding
tangible things.
Tangible things. So I would argue that if I was that monk, given that sort of like spirituality, I'd still be able to live off of that. Was that a good analogy?
Yeah, I know that you haven't always been religious, like from the get go, from when you were born. I know that like experiences shaped you into the person that you are today. Do you think
Right.
you could share a bit of that if you're
Sure, yeah.
comfortable?
Good to
like,
know you remember.
like any spiritual experiences you went through, or any
Right,
spiritual
right.
awakenings that you went through.
Spiritual awakenings are something of a like an anomaly, no? Because you get it from testimonies from other people, and you don't know if you yourself believe it. But the way
Yeah.
that they describe it to you with such passion, with such rigorous,
Conviction.
detailed conviction, makes you believe that, hey, this person actually believes what they believe. For me, I think I was on the verge of deep depression, and just this sense of feeling so lost that I don't know who or where to turn to, until I came through this this song. And I think songs really helped me for that.
Okay.
And when I heard this song, I felt this overwhelming sense of peace, of calmness, and of worship from a higher power. And I can't tell you that it came from something that I learned as a kid because I was always very avoidant of religion in the first place. I didn't
Yeah.
like organized religion, and I turned away from it until I was 22 years old. Being grew up from like a Catholic, from my devout parents, I never really knew what religion was,
Yeah.
other than a lot of traumatic factors, other than a lot of senseless, to my opinion, senseless sort of obedience towards these like sacraments that meant nothing to me. So why is it that in that exact instance, I felt a calling to understand that there is indeed a higher power, and that higher power is able to give me peace, security, and stableness in my life that I could never get from any other sort of factor or person that I've always been searching for. And I think that is super duper important. And I know not many people have that instance in their life when they have this sort of spiritual awakening
Yeah.
that just sort of wakes them up from what they've been going through before and change completely 180 and try to undergo this life of peace and this life of obedience for a higher power, for a higher purpose.
Yeah.
Well said.
Well said. That's actually very insightful. So I think
Yeah.
that one of the ways that we could frame this juga, whether or not people believe in specific religions, is not just the practices, tapi it's like the actual belief itself that can function as an objective coping mechanism that can kind of like help you manage stress, manage adversity, and kind of like guide you through life experiences. Do you think that like an objective way of speaking about it would be to also say that spirituality, religion, whatever it is, can function as a coping mechanism?
Wouldn't it be nice to talk to someone you know you're not sure exists about anything you want to talk about at all? Because I'm not entirely sure if there's one person on earth I can be open about of anything, of my urges, of my temptations, of my deepest, darkest secrets. And if there's this imaginary person that I imagine is able to listen, not only listen, but tolerate and maybe even forgive all my wrongdoings, that sounds like a pretty damn good person to me.
One could debate AI is taking over that
That's what I was literally thinking that.
right?
Yeah.
AI
No?
is certainly taking over that role.
And
Which
what are
is
your
why-
opinions on that?
In AI?
No, on like
In AI taking
taking over
that.
religion, basically, right?
Have you heard some of the theories that ChatGPT or any other sort of like AI computation systems are actually the Antichrist?
Why so?
Some religious zealots are arguing over the fact of like over-reliance on AI. Shout out to Brian Iskandar for doing the whole AI thing in this
Yeah.
episode. But yeah, like there were some religious zealots and right-wing groups that were talking about how the over-reliance of AI, especially in terms of like seeking for a higher purpose
Right.
or a higher power in order to alleviate their sort of pain or their sense of hopelessness. The fact that AI is taking over God's role is indeed scary. And I think that if you would use AI in a way that sort of encourages you to talk to God more, as in AI is the tool to help you talk to God instead of AI is God himself, I think that might be quite useful.
Well, neuroscience has repeatedly found correlations and links between mystical experiences, spiritual experiences with the right temporal lobe. So it's found that a lot of temporal lobe stimulation can trigger profound feelings of presence, divine agency, or meaning. So do you think that happened to you when you went through the spiritual experiences that you did?
Try to reiterate the question to me.
I think my question to you is, as someone who's like gone through spiritual awakenings and spiritual experiences and all that,
Mystical.
to read about what happens in your brain when you go through all that is one thing. To believe it is another. So, my question to you is, with your beliefs in God and your religious beliefs and everything like that, how do you feel when it all just like is chalked down to science? It's like it's all just your brain.
I guess my question to you is, who do you think created science? Who do you think gave us the capability to understand what we are told to understood, which is one of the most complex parts of our human biology, our brain? If the study of psychology and the study of science actually tells us what we are experiencing when we are experiencing God, it just sort of tells us that, like, if anything, it sort of strengthens that God, it does indeed help. And rather than sort of having an outside experience from God and saying that this is all being chalked down to science, I would say is a reductionist sort of fallacy. As in, most people would argue that if you would chalk it down to science, there are loads of physicists and astrophysicians who would argue, even Albert Einstein himself, that there is indeed a higher power. So the way I see it, the closer you delve into science, the more deep you delve into the human psyche and psychology, the more you will find that God does indeed exist.
Well, I want to bring up a very interesting thing that I read a while back, kan. Karena I think I'm a psychologist, so sometimes different psychologists have different views of this. Tapi yang mungkin mau aku ngomongin namanya the third man phenomenon. Have you heard of that?
No.
Enlighten me again.
It's so interesting to me. It's like people in 9/11, right? They were some people to kaya came forward and swore that there was like an angel that came and like saved them. There's people in a lot of life or death experiences, especially kaya on Mount Everest and things like that. Suddenly they get lost and there's someone walking with them and like brings them to safety la intinya. So there a lot of scientists have given this name. What some religious people call angels, scientists have come to call the third man, which is where your brain, to protect itself, basically imagines or manifests, for lack of a better term, an additional person that is there guiding you in times of extreme stress, adversity, life or death experiences. So almost a hallucination.
Benar.
So my question for Julian, itu kaya, where do you draw the line between psychotic experiences, schizophrenic experiences, and real religious experiences?
Do you believe in coincidence?
Yes.
I do.
You believe that coincidence is a factor in which religion can be crossed lines with?
Can coincidence exist within religion?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
If that's the case, you mentioned that the third man factor is an actual phenomenon that happened in real life, yes?
That
In
happens a
that
lot.
actual phenomenon, did the people that experienced this third man factor, were they all of the same age? Were they all of the same religion-based faith system? Were they all facing similar upbringings in life in terms of like social and financial factors?
Okay.
So all of these factors does screw the validity of the experiment, as in, the third man factor.
They're all confoundings, basically.
They're all confoundings, yes?
Yeah.
So the coincidence, I argue, there might be if they all saw the same third man.
No,
They didn't.
they didn't.
Ah.
And it's like, it's not something that's happened in the past, it's something that still happens.
Even
Katika is
now.
what scientists, there comes a line where scientists can't explain things, where doctors cannot explain things, where therapists can't explain things. How can this happen, Kan? So science chalks it down to your brain's coping mechanisms, isolation, fear. Basically, kaya your brain is trying to protect itself, so it's imagining whatever you need to imagine in different forms, shapes, experiences, Kan. So I think that,
Research has shown that when you are placed under great duress or great stress or trauma or whatever it is, the brain comes up with coping mechanisms. And one of them could be, for lack of a better word, hallucinations.
Yeah.
Not in any way to belittle these experiences that all these people have, but I'm just talking from a scientific standpoint.
Sure.
So a lot of scientists believe itu tuh mereka bisa ngeliat orang ketiga kayak gitu tuh itu karena their brain is okay, let's say all the situations that you put, like misalnya 9/11 or whatever it is, most likely Mount Everest, most likely mereka sendirian kan
Yeah.
in that situation.
Yeah.
So it's less scary to think of being alone when there's someone there with you, right? Like going through something with you.
Mhm.
And so sometimes your brain can conjure up that image.
Yeah.
Buat yang Mount Everest, I could debate that Mount Everest is a very, very, very vigorous environment with very little oxygen.
Yeah.
Right. Berarti apa? Kalau kekurangan oksigen, hipoksia dong otaknya.
What's that mean?
Hypoxia, lack of oxygen in the brain.
Okay.
When you get
Good to
get
know.
lack of oxygen in the brain, you hallucinate.
Yeah.
So one could debate that the third man that they saw was because they did not have enough oxygen in their body, in their brains.
A religious debate would also argue that because you would have not enough oxygen in your body means that you're close to dying, yes?
Well, there's
See where I'm going with that?
so you're basically maksudnya orangnya udah mau meninggal ada angel gitu kan?
Ivana.
No, but it doesn't happen that fast. There's like a threshold between okay, so let's say you're okay. Do I get scientific with it?
Sure.
Yes. We'll put the English version in
Okay,
the subtitles.
so hemoglobin in your blood binds oxygen, right?
Yes.
And so that's why
Don't ask
you
me
have
why, I don't
hemoglobin
know.
saturation.
Okay.
Right. So let's say optimal would be 100%, let's say, or 99%. If you're at sea level, which is where we are now, you're getting that. But then when you go above sea level, you naik ke Mount Everest, itu kan langsung berkurang because the oxygen in the air is decreases, and therefore the oxygen in your blood, the oxygen that binds in your blood, itu juga decrease. But there's a certain threshold where it doesn't mean that if your oxygen, if the saturation of the oxygen in your body decreases, you die. So one could argue that they are not close to death, but they are below what they are used to.
Not being close to death, but being in a situation where they've never been before. Close to death. Not close to death? Not very close to
Not
death?
very close to death. Let's say they have everything they need. They have
Right.
water, they have food, they have a map, but they're lost. Yeah. One could say they're under great duress, great stress, hence no coping mechanisms. Guys, I'm religious, I swear. I believe in God. I know it comes off as I don't believe in God, but
But
I...
this is interesting to think about.
I should have worn a cross today, Ivana.
No, this is interesting to
Kesannya
think about.
kayak gue nggak percaya Tuhan, anjir. Kayak semuanya gue counter. No, I believe in God.
Justru, if you say that, and I think you should record this, you should put this in, that if one's religion is not rooted in your own reasoning and logical
Yeah.
ability to understand
Yeah,
concepts, if you don't question your own religion, is what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
it's not a pretty good religion or good faith system that you have.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that if you're always questioning things, that's God's ability to give you that doubt, to
Yes.
give you that questioning so you can strengthen your faith.
I know we both come from a science background. I personally, in my field, there are things that I've seen that I don't think science can explain.
Okay.
Mutation.
Such as?
But I also think that there are a lot of things that I see that people believe are spiritual experiences that science can explain. And I think it's caused quite a dilemma within me.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm quite religious, but then when I'm working in a very scientific field, very science-based field where everything is based on evidence and things like that, sometimes you start to question your faith.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. How do you, like, coming from psychology, where a lot of things can be explained by phenomenons or processes in the brain, how does that? I know you are quite religious as well.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, it really is context dependent. What are some of the things you would say are unexplainable by science that you've either seen yourself or you've heard from other people? Kaya sporadic healing gitu.
Yeah.
Sporadic healing.
Sporadic
Yeah,
healing.
Can you talk more about that?
We should talk more about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I think she should because it's not. It's like a okay. So my understanding of sporadic healing is when someone who has like cancer or someone who has like a terminal illness, suddenly it's gone. Or
Right.
even like something smaller. It doesn't have to be terminal.
Right.
Where there is no explanation for how this life-threatening or serious issue suddenly disappears with little to no medical intervention.
Do you want to
Is
talk
that-
about
is that
witchcraft
the
as
right-
well?
Is that the
Yeah.
right definition of
So
it?
basically, bahasa awamnya mujizat, miracle.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Mujizat.
Orang yang misalnya kanker tiba-tiba bisa sembuh, kanker stadium 4 tiba-tiba sembuh, or let's say banyak kan, maksudnya I'm from a Christian background, and misalnya kayak ada orang datang ke gereja, by the name of Jesus you are healed, and they really like the problems that they've encountered for years and years and years, like misalnya migrain atau apa tuh beneran sembuh gitu.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I myself as a doctor, sometimes I question that. I won't even lie.
Mm.
But and I looked into it, into sporadic healing, and a lot of it can be explained by science, but a lot of it
Cannot.
cannot.
Yeah.
Most
From
of it
what
can
I
be explained,
Pieces of it, I
Pieces
would
of
say.
but the majority is still.
Pieces of it. Here. How do I say it? See, this is where I feel like it's a gray area. It can be explained by science, but I personally don't believe that these effects in science can cause stage 4 cancer to just go away like that.
Mm.
Okay, what I'm about to say, like contohnya, misalnya in sporadic healing, belief can trigger opioid and dopamine release, which in turn modulates immune response and alters pain pathways. That's number 1. Number 2, it can cause stress reduction, and when stress reduces, of course, cortisol also reduces, and cytokine levels change, and autoimmune activation can happen.
Mm.
What else? Yeah, like that, things like that.
Mhm.
But I don't know, like, to me it doesn't make sense. Cytokine changes in your body and suddenly stage 4 cancer gone. Kalau kayak gitu, kenapa nggak semua pasien kanker dikasih pengobatan sitokin aja? Maksudnya dirubah sitokin levelnya. Done. Right?
Mm. Sometimes I hear it like come back up, right? An analogy for faith versus science is that science explains to you all the parts of a car, how a car works, how a car runs, where to get the car, where to buy a car,
Yeah.
but it doesn't explain to you what faith does. Why the car is there in the first place.
Oh, this is a good analogy. I wanted to bring this up. Kalau dalam dunia science, where did humans come from? Manusia datang dari mana? Evolution.
Evolution.
From what?
Well,
Apes, right?
yeah.
Tapi
Or
kalau
so
kita
we're
baca,
taught.
misalnya, I don't know, I cannot speak about the Quran because I'm not Islam. I have limited knowledge on that. But I think there are quite some similarities, if I'm not mistaken, between the Quran and the Bible. Let's say, for instance, let's take the Bible, yeah?
Mhm.
Kan kalau the Bible, how were humans created? How?
Well,
Adam and Eve. Itu aja udah ada sebuah mismatch.
In Muslim, would we?
Sama
Islam?
kan kayaknya?
Islam?
I don't know.
Adam and Hawa, right?
Adam dan
that's
Hawa
like
kan? Yeah,
the
same
Indonesian
thing, yeah. Adam dan
translation.
Hawa, Adam and Eve. So
Tapi,
we
yeah.
believe that the first humans were Adam and Eve,
Mhm.
and then after that, but science believes that humans evolved from early apes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a mismatch.
So where's the intersection? Are Adam and Eve apes?
The intersection would I would assume, yeah, was when science was created in the first place. If you would question as to like, oh, if science can explain back to the evolution of apes, where it cannot explain Adam and Eve because Adam and Eve were not. That was not the area of science yet. So how can we try to explain something that happened so long ago with something we just created 2,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago?
Do you believe in evolution?
Do I believe in evolution?
I believe in evolution.
I do believe in evolution. I believe it does not date back to the Bible. I think it's not contradictory. I think it sort of takes a piece of evolution, a piece of history, and place it here when the Bible does not talk about history as like some sort of linear timeline. Like how God says that He created the world in 7 days. 7 days of what? 7 days of the sun and Earth like combining, or 7 days of like the galaxies like reforming? Then that could take eons. And we're not given any context. We just assume that this was the information given to us, and whatever fits our narrative, we're just like, oh, we either believe in science, and we're just like, oh, 7 days, that sounds like a whole lot of bullshit to me. Can I say bullshit on the podcast?
Yeah, you can.
So like, and whereas you have this guy who's like, oh yeah, but 7 days could mean like eons in terms of like when God thinks of a day, he doesn't think of a day that we think
24
of
hours,
a day.
yeah.
So
But then there's like also this argument that I read about where it says that Adam and Eve had children,
mhm.
where they had 3 sons, Cain, Abel, and Seth, and then
Okay.
Cain killed Abel.
Okay.
Itu 2 anak cowok loh.
Yeah. Are you saying men are the
No.
problem?
No.
No. Guys, tapi
Bukan, enggak.
Well, I'm
Katanya,
sorry.
enggak,
I have a.
katanya humans came from Adam and Eve.
Okay.
And then keluarlah Cain and Abel and Seth. Wait, Cain and Seth cannot make babies, right?
Or so we think.
Enggak gitu loh. Argumennya adalah kalau if all the first humans came from Adam and Eve,
yeah.
and then there's no daughter there, who are they procreating with? Their mom? Like with Eve? This is what science debates. And if so, even if so, berarti kan the gene pool is not healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where like you're inbreeding basically,
Right.
for lack of a better word.
Yes.
And so it would cause a whole long line of deformities in humans. And yet we're not deformed.
Thank you so much.
So science would
She looks at me and holds eye contact.
and
That
so
would've been
no,
bad.
maksudnya the field of science
All
debates
deformed.
that early humans did not come from Adam and Eve. Guys, don't. It really sounds like I don't believe in God here, but I swear I do. It's just like I'm offering a scientific standpoint.
I see. How much do you know about religious history?
Not that much.
Huh?
No, not a lot.
I see. Did you know that there are some parts of the Bible that are excluded?
Why are they excluded?
Why are they excluded? Because they sort of peer you away from sort of like God's narrative, right? But it doesn't give you context, as in like to what they believe is God's narrative, right? Which is why you have so many versions of the Bible. It's just according to like what that person thought the Bible should be written like. It's rewritten, it's reiterated, it's retranslated, and it's like formatted in a way to make you understand their language. Which is why I argue that like you shouldn't just read one version of the Bible. You would try to understand all the books that you can try to find about Jesus Christ, about the Bible. And if they try to fit, let's say, okay, analogy. You have an autobiography of someone really famous, like Stephen Hawking. What is that, like 300 pages?
I don't like him. Can we change the person?
Okay, let's change the person.
Taylor
Someone
Swift.
more favorable on your side.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. Let's say you have an autobiography of Taylor Swift. Like when she's like 80 years old, she's gonna make this autobiography of how she had like 20, 30 boyfriends and how she wrote like 100 songs about them. And like you would have this around 300 and 400 pages long. How the heck can you have something as extensive as the Bible talking about what, like 200 thousands of people in like 500 pages? You can't. You simply can't. You would have to have so many other books that could fit into that narrative, which is why they like took pieces of information and they just sort of streamlined it into this Bible. But if you try to find out other books of like information from the
Yeah, I
Torah,
know like the Jewish.
from the Torah, from the Quran, from the book of Apocrypha, from the book of like Nephilim, from the book of like so all these different books, they all come together and fit one big narrative, and you might just become this crazy person who like knows all this religious stuff.
Even in Catholicism,
Even
right?
in Catholicism,
there are
books
certain books that
sealed inside the Vatican for
Yeah.
like, and scholars are not allowed to read that. And I think that's being done on purpose, you know. So there's a lot of information that they don't want you to know, and I think that information, again, this is like coming into like conspiracy stuff. It's like, it's supposed to make you question God and delve into just science and psychology. And this is the conspiracy when it comes to like most people. They make you understand that all there is in this world is science, psychology, all of these subjects that are being taught to you by other humans, but the subject being taught to you by God is your spirituality, that the kingdom of heaven is inside of you. So if the kingdom of heaven is inside of you, then all the answers you need are inside of you, correct? You don't need all these books. You don't need all of these Bibles. Everything that you're looking for is already inside each and every one
I
of you.
do agree. The more you study religion, the more you realize you don't understand anything.
So I argue that if you want to find the answers all in the world, just look within.
So, Julius, thank you so much. I think you've shared a lot of very objective facts and balanced that very well with your opinion throughout this episode.
I tried.
So now, we would really, really love just your opinion on what you think the take-home message from this episode should be.
You do your best, and Jesus will do the rest. Nice.
For me, the more that I try to understand religion and science, the more I realize I don't understand anything.
Yeah.
And for me, I think, like, because I'm Christian, the Bible in itself is not meant for you to, like, take everything at face value. It's more so the teachings behind each and every story
To navigate your life.
to
correct.
navigate your
And
life.
I
For me, personally.
That's how it's intended to be.
That's how, yeah. So these are teachings for me to guide me through my daily life. How do I go about through this world and carry myself with grace and faith and all that, rather than me believing all these different stories. Not to say that they didn't happen, but sometimes, why would you? I mean, like, coming from a scientific background, it's like it just causes more dilemma the more you delve into it. So I think some things are better just left
Unanswered.
untouched and unanswered.
Unanswered.
And you will get all the answers when you die. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So thank you, Jules, for that.
Thank you, Jules.
Okay, guys, we had a really interesting topic today. Quite deep. Agak berat ya topiknya. But I think it's fun and it's
Yeah.
necessary to talk about. Thank you, Jules, for coming onto our show. We had so much fun having you today.
Thank you for having me.
And as usual, we hope you get
Get
well
well
soon.
soon.